So I wanted to go ahead and do a video lecture on kind of the introduction to writing a rhetorical analysis. So last time we talked about some reading strategies kind of in preparation to help you learn how to read more effectively, because you will have to do reading for this assignment, because you're going to have to analyze a piece of writing and what is being intended and whether or not it's effective. So I wanted to start by giving you those reading strategies. So if you haven't looked at that, make sure you go ahead and do so before you continue on with this. And now this is the writing or rhetorical analysis essay PowerPoint. So let's talk a little bit about what rhetorical analysis is and how we're going to do it. So this type of essay is different from the ones we've been doing. You probably will only see specifically something called a rhetorical analysis in an English class. But the skills you learn will be valuable in other classes, in your daily life, when you're assessing information online, talking with friends. There's a conversation I was having with a friend yesterday about a song that required rhetorical analysis. It's valuable in your career. It's valuable when you're reading research and when you're writing research papers. So this is kind of the foundation to pretty much everything that you'll need, or not everything, but a lot of the skills you'll need to be successful in college and beyond. But unlike essays we've done so far, rhetorical analysis depends first on reading someone else's work. It involves quoting and integrating evidence. It requires you to develop an opinion on a text and to think critically about a work that you've read. Excuse me. So that's one of the reasons we're going to be spending much more time on this unit than I had originally intended, because it does involve a lot more, and I wanted to kind of give us a little bit more time to work on it. So what is rhetorical analysis? It assesses the intended purpose, audience, and efficacy of a piece of writing. So in other words, it asks, what is the piece trying to do? Who is it written for? And is it effective? It also analyzes the techniques used by a creator in making a piece, because rhetorical analysis does not only involve analyzing writing. It also involves any kind of media, any kind of art. So I'll use creator and author interchangeably, but we will be actually looking at pieces of writing. So what strategies did the creator use? Why did they use those strategies? And how did the techniques used combine to create the overall message? Some other things, it often answers these questions. So who produced the work? Who is the audience, or who is the work intended for? What is the purpose in creating that work? What were some of the techniques that were used to appeal to the audience? Was the creator effective in conveying their message? Why or why not? And fundamentally, it also explores how a creator uses certain kinds of appeals. And we'll talk about the rhetorical appeals in a minute. But how does they appeal to emotion, logic, or credibility? So here's some key questions to ask when analyzing media messages. And these are all things that you may want to ask with rhetorical analysis as well. So who made it? Why was it made? Who's their target audience? What do they want me to do? Or what do they want me to think about? What are the messages about? What ideas, values, and information is overt or implied? What is left out that might be important to know? And how does this compare and contrast to other media messages on the topic? Some techniques, what techniques are used to communicate the message? How effective are the techniques? What are the strengths and weaknesses? How might they have chosen to use those techniques? Or why might they have chosen to use those techniques, excuse me. When was this created? Where and how was it shared with the public? What aspects of cultural context should we consider? Who paid for it? Who might make money from it? Is this fact or opinion, or is it something else? How credible is the information? What are the sources, if present? Is it a trustworthy source? Who's going to benefit? Who might be harmed? What voices are represented? Whose voices are omitted? What is my interpretation of this? How do prior expectations and beliefs shape that interpretation? What do I learn about myself from my interpretation or reaction? How does it make me feel? What kind of actions might I take in response? And finally, what's my evidence? Why might it matter? Why do I think that? And what else do I need to know? And how could I find that out? You won't use all of these questions for this assignment, but these are really good questions to ask yourself whenever you're looking at any piece of media, whether it's an article or a TV show or anything like that, an advertisement, a Facebook message, whatever you're looking at, to ask these questions. So the first step to rhetorical analysis is to read carefully and to read actively. You have to read the work you're analyzing. I have seen students say, I have a rhetorical analysis assignment I have to write, and they'll come, ask, well, have you read the work that you're analyzing? No. Well, you'd probably need to start with that, because you can't do anything with this until you've read what you're going to be basing it on. So I'm going to read actively using one of the strategies that we talked about in the Reading Strategies PowerPoint or in the first part of the Reading Strategies and Rhetorical Analysis booklet. They're kind of the same. I go into more information in the booklet because I have more space to work with in a PowerPoint, but the fundamental information is similar. And you'll make notes in the margins about purpose of the piece, like, what is the person trying to do? Why are they trying to do it? Emotional appeals, which are called pathos, logical appeals, which are called logos, appeals to character and credibility, which are called ethos. What does the author want you to know or do after reading it, and is the work effective? Why or why not? So you're just going to kind of write some things in the margins or highlight or anything like that to kind of get some ideas about what you might want to say about the piece. To assess purpose, there are 4 main purposes, especially in writing. They're to persuade, inform, entertain, and teach. And here's a nice little graphic. I think it was actually meant for 2nd graders, but I think it works just as well for college. It comes with a nice acronym to think of. PI and T. PI is persuade, inform, and entertain, and T is teach. So if you're, when you're trying to think about purpose, think about PI and T. Assessing purpose, you want to start, after you've assessed PI and T, you can create the purpose using this template. So what is the purpose of the title of the work? And then put to blank. In that blank, you can put persuade, inform, entertain, or teach. And then you're going to think about questions for each possible purpose. So if you've decided that it's to persuade, you want to ask, what is the author trying to persuade me of? Why does the author think this is important? Does the writer or creator ask me to take any actions during the course of the text? If the purpose you've decided on is inform, what is the author or creator telling me about? Why is this information important to this person? What does the author or creator think, or why does the author or creator think the information is important to me? If it's to entertain, what is the author or creator doing to entertain? Why does she or he think it is entertaining, and why should I think it is amusing? You might also ask, what reaction should I have from this, or what reaction do I have from this? Teach, if you've decided the purpose is to teach, what is the author or creator trying to teach me to do? Why does the author or creator think this information or skill is important? And what does the author or creator think I should be able to do at the end of reading this document or watching this video or consuming this piece of media? So to create a purpose statement, you can go with the template like this: purpose of, title of work, to, and then your verb for your PI and T, about what the focus of the piece is, because why they want you to do it, and then convert it into a sentence, which you'll use for your purpose sentence later. The purpose of title is to, again, PI and T, about it there, because that blank right there. So then rhetorical appeals are actually the easiest way to approach rhetorical analysis. There are about 1 million different ways you can do this, but I find that a lot of the others are a little bit confusing. They're a lot more complicated. They don't fit as well into the 5-paragraph essay format. And so I think this is the easiest way to kind of introduce it. So the rhetorical appeals are the reasons that someone should listen to you. There are generally 3 categories of appeals, or ways that you can convince someone of your argument, and they are emotional, logical, and credibility. These were actually created by Aristotle about 2,500 years ago, when he was reviewing and doing a lot of rhetorical analysis about a lot of texts that were written in ancient Greece. But they still work really well today, because writing really hasn't changed in 2,500 years. We still use a lot of the same techniques. We still use a lot of the same approaches that were used way back then, and we've tried to vary them, but then we end up going back to them because, well, they actually work better than a lot of the newfangled stuff we keep trying to come up with today. So this is the rhetorical triangle. So you have logos, which is logic, reason, and proof. You have ethos, which is credibility and trust. And you have pathos, which is emotions and values. We'll look at it a different way here, because I know this can be confusing for some people. So starting in logos, which is at the bottom instead of the top this time. The message, logos is the Greek term for logic, but it has been made to represent facts, research, and other message elements that provide proof or evidence to a claim. Use logos to convince your audience that what they are hearing or seeing is well-researched, well-built, or otherwise worth their time. Then ethos is about the speaker. Ethos is the Greek term for ethics, but it has been made to represent the credibility of the person making a communication, or the speaker. It's actually more kind of translated to character and credibility than it is ethics. Ethos is established through a variety of factors, including status, awareness, professionalism, celebrity endorsement, research, and so forth. Also, things like including research sources or ethos. The publication, if the publication is an authority, that's an appeal to ethos. Showing a speaker's experience is an appeal to ethos. So anything like that. Build ethos to make your audience trust what you're saying. It's anything that would make the audience trust you. And then audience is pathos. Pathos is the Greek term for emotion, but it has been made to represent how an audience feels or experiences a message. The appeal of pathos makes a person feel excited, sad, angry, motivated, jealous, or any other number of emotions that may persuade them to act based on what you say. So pathos is anything that appeals to emotion. Here's another one. I have pulled lots of things from online because I know this can be complicated for people. So rhetoric is the art of using language persuasively and effectively. Logos is the use of logic, rationality, and critical reasoning to persuade. Logos appeals to the mind. Logos seeks to persuade the reader intellectually. So here we have a bunch of graphs. It appeals to the mind and intellect, draws from philosophy and logic, facts, statistics. You might see if-then statements, definitions of terms, explanations of ideas, cause and effects, details that come from objective reporting, or logical reasons and explanations. Pathos equals emotion. It's the use of emotion to affect and persuade. Pathos appeals to the heart and one's emotions. Pathos seeks to persuade the reader emotionally. So anything that appeals to the heart or emotions, draws from spirituality or religious traditions, things like anecdotes, stories, testimonials, personal connections, imagery, visual images or words that inspire you, anything like that is pathos. Ethos is about ethics and credibility. It's the ongoing establishment of a writer or a speaker's authority, credibility, and believability as he or she speaks and writes. Ethos appeals to ethics and character. It seeks to persuade the reader that the writer or speaker can be trusted and believed due to his or her noble character or ethical ways in which he is presenting ideas. He or she is presenting ideas. And so it appeals to believability, qualifications, character, biographical information, use of credible sources, accurate citations, experience and authority, and appropriate language. So any of that has to do with ethos. I've got 15 minutes on each of these. So let's stop here and we will go start with pre-writing in the next